Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today I've got the fabulous Dave Mack with me, and I'm going to ask Dave the same question I ask absolutely everybody. Hey, Dave, why did you become carnivore?
Well, the short story, I became carnivore just over 2 years ago, after being keto for a little while and having to kind of address some issues that vegetables were causing me. So I didn't know it at the time. I thought perhaps it was the excess meat I was consuming on keto that was causing me some problems, basically some bathroom problems. But after doing a bit of research, I found out it was the vegetables. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll cut these out. And the rest is history. I've been carnivore since June 2022. The longer story is that I met my doctor well, actually, to take a step back from that, I have been a bit of an eater all my life. So I've always been a very insecure person as I was growing up, and as as an insecure person, one of the things that I used to do is it's almost like covering my body with something, like is just eating. It was a way to, you know, give me a sense of security. So I was in unfamiliar situations or I was feeling kind of down or any of these kind of things, I would always resort to eating. And often it was comfort foods. It wasn't resorting to eating the healthiest thing I could find in the supermarket as I was growing up. So as I was growing up, I always had this. I was pretty slim, but I was slim with a belly. So as one of my viewers described it one time, I was like a pregnant chopstick. And so that's kind of how I grew up. And then when I was 17, I had a hemorrhagic stroke. And having the hemorrhagic stroke and then having to spend a lot of time in hospital, that that increased my eating. And obviously I was sedentary and things got even worse from there. Um, Coupled with the fact that after I got out of hospital and everything was resolved, I had a bit of kind of depression around what had happened to me being in hospital. And so that also increased my eating and that continued. I also picked up another habit that helped with my that helped deal with insecurity when I was around 15, and that was drinking. And so the my whole life has just been this drinking and eating and drinking and eating kind of thing, you know. And so fast forward to June 2022, and I went to see a doctor, and the doctor said to me, you know, we've got some problems here that we need to address. One of them is you're pre-diabetic, and the other one is that we need to do something about the drinking. And I, I knew that I had to do something about the drinking. The pre-diabetes was a surprise, but um, I knew the drinking was a problem. Hearing it from the doctor, though, made me kind of sit up and take notice. The doctor wanted to address the drinking first. So he wanted to put me on this drug called antabuse, which would cause no symptoms unless you took the drug and then drank afterwards. And then it would make you violently ill. So it was like kind of, you know, putting your hand on an electrified fence, you know. Um, but one of the side effects was also death. And so I wasn't all that excited about taking this drug. So I asked the doctor to give me a little bit of time to try and sort it out for myself. Having done low carb and keto many times in the past, over the past 20 years, I thought, well, I know when I'm doing low carb, I have a lot more self-control. So I wonder if I can kind of kill two birds with one stone by going keto. And I was very motivated because I didn't want to get another year down the track and go to the doctor and have much worse news, like, okay, you've got cirrhosis now or something like that. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to drop everything and go keto. And I think that was June 3 of 2022. And going keto did improve my self-control. It was hard. Those first few days was, of course, hard to kind of stay away from the sugar and everything. But I managed to get through it. And one of the things that helped me get through it was kind of changing my routines up a little bit. So I wouldn't walk past the things that would tempt me, like I wouldn't walk past the convenience store and all that kind of thing. So that was good. I was on keto a couple of weeks in, doing okay. But then I started to have the basically the diarrhea problems that I alluded to at the beginning. And I thought, okay, this is because I'm eating meat, right? And all the stuff they've told me about colon cancer has been true over the years. This is probably the start of colon cancer. Now I'm eating so much meat. But I was doing some research online and came across some videos. And one of them was Ken Berry's, and he was talking about how some particular vegetables will cause this problem. Vegetables that I happen to be eating, because I thought, well, these ones are high in vitamin C. And so basically his video ended up by saying, I think it was a video where he said I was wrong about vegetables or something. And it was this was his video kind of when he was moving into carnivore. And yeah, so I thought, okay, well, I'll give these vegetables up for a while and I'll see how things go. And so I gave them up for a while, and I've been carnivore ever since.
Wow.
And the changes have just been amazing.
What have been the changes?
So I talked about having the stroke before, and that was 30 something years ago. It'll be, 33 years ago, I guess, this year. And so for those 30 odd years, I have had a weaker right side. And that means that, even though I'm right-handed, my left hand now is better at doing things, like better with reflexes, better at use my iPhone completely left-handed. If I use my iPhone right-handed, I feel broken, like normally a left-hander would if they were using the right hand. And my right leg has always dragged, like I've always had this weird gait, where I'm limping all the time. And that was especially bad if I'm tired and things like that. Since going carnivore, that's improved. And, the limp is far less pronounced. I feel like it's just normal, like almost normal walking style now. And of course, there is still a bit of a limp there, but it's nowhere near what it was like before. Coupled with that, a couple of years before I went on carnivore, I developed arthritis in my left knee. So you can imagine the comical, how comical it looked with me walking down the street with arthritis in my left knee and this weird gait because of my right leg, right? And every day I don't have a car in Japan, right? We rely on public transport. So you walk everywhere. And, I was walking, sometimes 2 or 3 hours a day, depending on what kind of job I was doing that day. And just arthritis in my left knee, the gait, and I was just looked like this kind of almost like I don't know, a monkey or a gorilla or something walking down the street, but like a broken one. And so that's all gone. The arthritis disappeared. Like now I'm running downstairs. I can jump downstairs. I can like take stairs 2 at a time. I don't need to hold the handrail. I can run like I was in high school again. It's just amazing. And
Incredible. Yeah, lovely,
yeah,
lovely set of benefits from that. I actually remember that Ken Berry video because I was leading sort of like a parallel life where I went low carb keto and then carnivore. Um, can you remember the particular vegetables that you took out that were troublesome?
yeah. So the culprits, I think there were a few things like bok choy was one, but I think the culprits were red and yellow peppers. So I was having those because I thought, okay, well, these are going to be high in vitamin C. They're going to be great for me. I'm just going to be the healthiest. And yeah, getting rid of those, it was almost instant. The
Why
problem
was you
stopped.
chasing vitamin C?
I wasn't in any way educated about what I was doing. The most education I've had regarding kind of keto, low carb was reading Atkins' New Diet Revolution back in 2000, and then the occasional keto YouTube video I've seen since then.
Right.
So yeah, it was just you need vitamin C, right? That's what we were told. So yeah.
I mean, your stroke, just for people that don't know what it is, it's a blood vessel leak in the brain, isn't it? And did you say that was at 17?
Yeah, so I went to bed on a Sunday night, went to sleep, woke up on the Monday morning, and I was working at the time. Woke up on Monday morning to get ready for work, and felt like I was hungover, and I struggled to get out of bed. Felt like, oh, hang on, this is weird. This is not a hangover. Maybe I've got a virus, and I just throughout the next few hours. I got ready for work. I traveled all the way on the train to work, an hour, and got to work. And by the time I was at work, I thought, oh no, something's really wrong here. And I tripped over a box and that kind of thing. And no, this is not right. So then I traveled another hour to get home. And by the time I got home, I was dragging the right side of my body behind me.
Do you know what
And
caused? You know what caused it?
yeah, I had an aneurysm on the basilar artery in my head, and that just burst. It just I don't know how long it had been there, but the aneurysm, it just balloons out and balloons out and balloons out. Eventually, it gets weak enough that it just pops.
Do you know what the cause was, though? You know, the root cause was it? Did you have a knock to the brain? Knock
They
playing for
they
sports?
just said it was congenital,
Right.
which I guess is another way of saying idiopathic. Like we don't know. Uh,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah. Wow. And was that also a weird time for you because you're pretty young to have that happen? Was nutrition offered as a solution at any point to help you get better?
No. I mean, like, to be honest, the hospital actively supported me, um, in the opposite direction with the kind of food I was given and the kind of food that they allowed me to bring in. Because I think they felt sorry for me because, 17-year-old spending months in hospital, so when I was like, oh, mum, can you bring 2 liters of Coke in, or can you bring in 2 liters of Sprite or whatever, or McDonald's and all this kind of thing, they just let it happen.
When you look back, do you feel it's possible that it was something to do with diet or drinking that caused it in the first place? What's your best guess?
Mm, My my best guess is the only thing I can think is that I remember one year we went to the snow. It doesn't snow much in Australia, but if you go up to the mountains in winter, you get a few days. We went to the snow once and we got on toboggans and I went down on toboggan and I went much faster than I expected. Like the hill was much steeper than I had worked out. And I just went flying down and I smacked my head into a tree. And that's the only thing I can think. Oh, I wonder if there was something that happened then. But yeah,
Mm.
Don't know.
So you're a relative newcomer to carnivore, and you've had those benefits already. What made you think about presenting it to people on YouTube?
So I started that a little bit differently to the way most people start it these days, because you see kind of most people starting it these days is YouTube is from day one because it's an accountability tool. The way I started was like I was 4 months in, and at 4 months in, that's where I'd realized most of the benefits that I've gotten from carnivore. Like the arthritis had gone completely, the gait was resolved much better. The sleep was better, the brain fog was gone, everything was just like muscle was coming on without me doing anything. You know, I was just getting this vascularity in my arms I'd never had before, all this kind of thing. And I was just like starting to get angry, and like all these years, I could have been feeling so much better and feeling like, everyone else is in the same boat, they're all doing the same thing. And so I just felt like I needed to get the word out there. At the time, I just assumed, I'll probably get, maybe 10 people watching my videos. Most of those will be friends. But yeah, it just it took off after a while.
Yeah, you have you have a very good channel. I like your material. I also like your little setup there. I'm guessing you're actually genuinely in a studio you've built. What about people you interview, which you do very well, by the way? A style that I also use, which is just asking a question then shutting up. Are any particular stories of interviews that you remember and like to just recount that have amazed you about this way of eating?
Yeah, I think some of the ones that really stand out to me are the people that can reverse/cure their MS. It's just like, for me, that was growing up. I heard about MS, but MS was, to me, was all this, just this nebulous thing where people got sick and then they never got unsick. It was just, you get it and you've got it. And so many people can get rid of most, if not all, of the symptoms that they've had with MS. So that's one. And the other one is people getting eyesight improvements and literally getting their eyesight back. Yeah, just, that always amazes me, because it's these things that we just think it's permanent. Once you have this thing, there's no going back. There's no kind of, all right, I know I've been bad in the past with the way I've been eating and drinking or doing these risky activities. I'll be better going forward if you give me my eyesight, my whatever it is back. There was nothing of that, but seems that the body is, the body works well enough and is smart enough to, once you give it the right nutrition, just start repairing itself.
Yes, and I think that's the thing. The sad thing is we're told these things are progressive, chronic. You just can't reverse them. And the reason we're told that is because those people in that sphere are not seeing anyone eating the way we're eating, so they don't ever witness it. And the ones that do fix themselves invariably are ignoring going back to the doctor or a physician, which I'm not recommending, by the way, and doing it themselves. Because if they do it themselves and continue to talk to the doctor, all they get is pushback, which is really sad. And MS, on my channel, I've got maybe 3 or 4 MS reversals where there's empirical data, there's MRI images, no lesions, this sort of thing. And one particular person comes to mind, said the doctor was really cross about this and actually came in with the images and slammed the report on the desk and said, this shouldn't happen. And it's incredible that you laugh, but it's actually when you think about it, it's quite troubling. And the eyesight improvements last week, I had a guy who had, he's on the kidney transplant list and doing peritoneal dialysis. Also was told he'd go blind and needed injections, and he started eating this way. And within 4 weeks, the doctor said, I probably won't need to do an injection for at least a year, when he looked in his eye, which had never happened. Never happened. So these things can be reversed, and it is amazing. But the body heals. If you cut yourself, it heals. If you break a leg, it heals. So why can't other things heal? And if you think about the common sense of it, if you're putting something into your body that's constantly making it poorly, and you stop putting that thing in, then those symptoms are going to go away. I mean, to me, it just seems patently obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like, it's kind of a flippant comment, but it's just like, when you stop poisoning yourself, your body can start working again, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've lived in Scotland and Australia and Japan. What do you see in the people that's different when it comes to the way they eat? I know the typical image of the Scottish person from the 80s would be getting a Mars bar and deep frying it.
Right.
What have you noticed? Because obviously Japan allegedly is. I mean, I've been to Japan, but I'm playing devil's advocate here, pretend I haven't. What's the big differences between, say, the people in Germany, what they eat in Japan, and what they eat in Scotland, for instance?
Okay, I can't speak for Scotland because I left there when I was 6. So, but
All right.
I think the difference. I think one of the big differences diet-wise, actually, between Japan and, if you talk about the West generally,
Okay,
is moderation or self-control. They don't go overboard. Like, if they eat a lot of crap here, but it's not like, a bucket full of crab. It's like, one thing, But I think a misconception about Japan is that they don't eat meat. And they definitely do. It has increased a lot in the last 10 years. Like, they eat more meat now than they ever have, or the last 20 years, sorry. But they've always been a big meat-eating society. Like, one of the biggest lies out there is that Okinawa is a blue zone. If we imagine the blue zones are actually a thing, they are huge meat consumers in Okinawa, and they always have been. And my understanding of the reasons it got classified as a blue zone is because when they did the survey, that was just after the war, when they had nothing.
absolutely.
So, context is everything,
Yeah, they have a huge tourist industry, and both the locals and the tourists quite enjoy the pork there. I think there's actually one pig for every 5 person. And, so
Right.
it's incredible. I mean, when I went, that was 5 years ago. I now, maybe 6, because I wish I was carnivore when I went there, because there were so many dishes we didn't eat, which were very meat heavy, and also sort of a lot of organs and bits and bobs from the animal that I wouldn't even be able to recognise, to be frank with you. So I missed a chance there. But I would say one of the things I noticed as a tourist, I know you live there, so it is different, was there wasn't a thing about breakfast. Because when we first arrived, Jane and I thought, well, where's Zip out for breakfast? Well, it isn't really a concept, or that's what I noticed anyway. It isn't really a thing. There's not a breakfast place. There's not somewhere saying all day Japanese breakfast. It was quite a culture shock to me. I mean, there's many other things that are brilliant. You know, how courteous they are and how they obey the green and red lights when you're crossing the road and all that. But I found that quite amazing, that it was difficult to go out for breakfast. And also, I didn't think desserts were that big a deal when you were going out to eat as well.
So I think culture plays a big role there. So it's more common for Japanese people to have breakfast at home, like going out for breakfast. That's kind of very a Western thing. And when they're having breakfast at home, I mean, they will eat bread. Like kids, they're more likely to eat bread, like a croissant or something like that for breakfast. But the traditional kind of breakfast that a lot of, you know, middle-aged to older people would have is like fish and soup and rice, and it's all little dishes, you know. Um, and yeah, the as far as desserts go, like it's not as common in the West as it is in the West to have desserts after a meal. But in Japan, they have specific dessert shops, right? So it's like a dessert shop. They'll have like all these, they call them parfaits, like big glasses with like, there'll be cream and ice cream, and there's always they put cornflakes at the bottom of it for some reason. Shout out to Mr. Kellogg, but like all this kind of thing. But again, that's just like a one-time thing. Like let's go for that once a month. There's that kind of self-control there, rather than I'm passing the dessert shop. Let's go in and grab something on the way to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's an education for me because obviously I was a tourist, so I wasn't at their home ever. So I assumed that they weren't having breakfast at all. But like you said, there's a lot of fish there. That was another thing. I mean, I revelled in that because up until age 50, I was highly allergic to fish and hospitalised twice when I was eating
Oh wow.
fish that I didn't know was in something because it was things that I'd bought outside and, not obviously not a fish cake, but one was it was supposed to be chicken in a sort of batter, and they gave me prawns in batter, and I just took one little bite, and the next thing I know, I was in hospital. But anyway,
No.
the fresh fish there was amazing, and I really love the sushi bars, which I know is a bit sort of corny to think about, but I mean, do you take part in all the sushi stuff?
I like it. And of course now I wouldn't have so the one with the rice, that's sushi, but like if I was gonna have it now, I'd have sashimi, which is the same thing but without the rice. Um, but where I live and where I've been working, like there's no good restaurants around where you can get reasonable sashimi, right? Because like even where I live is kind of an industrial area. So yeah, I tend not to have it. Like I don't think I've had it in the last couple of years.
Right. And what's your regime then? What are you eating? And are you 2 meals a day or intuitive?
One one meal a day. Most times one meal a day, and it's just like 10 eggs scrambled and about 600 grams, 600 grams, like a pound of ground beef on top, and lots and lots and lots of salt.
And
Lots
that's
of
it.
salt.
Is that
Yeah.
sort of virtually every day?
Yeah. And then sparkling water.
Right. Okay.
And also, since I stopped drinking coffee, hot water with salt in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So why did you stop the coffee?
Um, a few things. I was starting to feel like it was affecting my resting heart rate a bit too much, and also sleep. Because of the amount I was drinking, I knew that it was affecting my sleep. So yeah,
Do you feel that you're still at the beginning of your journey then? Because you're quite new to carnivore, really.
I think I am in some ways. Like I feel like I still have a lot to learn. And and that could be just things like answering questions about particular nutrients and vitamins for myself, like am I getting enough of these things, and if someone was to challenge me about them, how can I answer those questions, things like that. So yeah, I'm not a veteran by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just kind of muddling along, and you know hoping for the best. Like I kind of live by the mantra: if my body is telling me that things are going okay, then they're going okay.
And do you get much pushback from your videos that is a bit upsetting, or do you miss most of
Um,
that?
look, I get pushback sometimes. Most of the time, the pushback I tend to receive, like YouTube does a good job of filtering the nasty comments out. I think YouTube's pretty good at identifying, even if someone's not swearing or saying anything particularly bad. YouTube seems to be pretty good at filtering out, like finding out what the actual meaning of something is, and going, hang on, this is, pretty bad. So I'm going to put that into quarantine. Um, Most of the negative feedback I have is people on Twitter. What I find on Twitter is actually like the influences from kind of, I don't know, you want to call it I wouldn't say it's all the vegan influences. It's all the kind of ethical vegan influences, the ones that probably hate us because, they don't think we should be eating meat at all for any reason. Um, so like, and some doctors who are very anti-carnivore, it's almost, and it's like they become kind of mean girls on Twitter. So, but as much as possible, I just try and stay out of that. Like I try and, for the most part, I try and kind of go on the way I started, which is just like, this is what happened to me. This is my story. And also, these are other people's stories as well.
Yes, I mean, I'm not a fan of the way X works, or as you call it, Twitter, which most people still refer to it as. Um, there is a level of nastiness which is quite unbelievable at points. But if you want free speech, then you have to take
Right.
the rough with the smooth. I'd rather that than not be able to say anything. So,
I totally agree. Yeah.
yeah,
I'd rather someone was able to say nasty things than everyone have to watch what they say and, yeah,
yeah.
self-censor.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that always gets me at the nub of all of this is if someone is saying I'm ethical, I'm a vegan, I don't kill animals. I say, but you do. I mean, it's just a fact. You have to kill animals to get your plants to grow. I grew veg in my own garden and potatoes when I believed all the high carb stuff, and it was like Fort Knox. Seriously, I was out there every day. Oh no, I've got white fly. Oh, it's green fly. Oh, I've got to put this netting over that, and I've got to put this chemical on to stop that happening. And it was just constant, absolute constant. And then you've got bugs in the soil that are causing your carrots to do certain things. And yeah, I can't believe anyone can actually believe they're vegan and not killing any animals at all. It just is beyond belief. And today on X, there was somebody justifying glyphosate and saying, it's not that bad. And both myself and Dr. Tro actually, I think, spotted an error here and said, okay, well, you drink a glass, because they said vinegar is worse. So,
I think I saw that.
yeah,
A
and I
lot of
said,
people must have been retweeting that. Yeah.
yeah. And I just put, right, okay, I'll drink a small glass of vinegar every day, and you drink a small glass of glyphosate every day for a week. Tell me how you get on. They won't. So I think that's the thing. A lot of the rubbish on X, you put your common sense hat on and think that makes no common sense whatsoever. And the big one for me is, like I say, vegans thinking, oh, I can eat this guilt free. No, you can't. The animals die. That definitely happens. Um, did you ever think, in your 20s that you would be a YouTube influencer and on X and upsetting people with your opinions?
No, I mean, when I was in my 20s, there was no such thing as YouTube. So I was like, that would never have crossed my mind. But when I first heard about YouTube, and I would never have thought that I'd be on YouTube talking to people. And yeah, but it's been, I think, I don't know. I think this is the same for most people. You kind of have this idea of how your life's going to go, and it never really goes that way. you think, okay, well, I'm doing this. I'm going to get a mortgage, and I'm going to get this job, and I'm going to study this, and I'm going to that, and this is how everything's going to work. And 20, 30, 40 years later, you look back and you think, well, I started going in that direction, but it didn't really work out that way, but it's worked out for the better.
Yeah, I think that's true of many people. I like a lot of autobiographies, and whether it's an actor or a scientist or just someone from history that's interesting, there's no real plan there. It is happenstance for a lot of people. I don't think there's many people that map out their life. Anyway, if people wanted to get to see your content, where would they need to go? Or if they want to follow you on X, what's your handles?
So on YouTube, they can type in No Carb Life in the search bar, or at Zero Carb, that's Zero Carb, and I'll come up there. And on X, I am Real Zero Carb, because
Brilliant.
Zero Carb was taken, so I had to go with a Real Zero Carb.
Brilliant. Dave, thanks a lot for your time.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I did press stop on there, but it didn't stop. Thank you for watching the video. It's much appreciated. If you haven't already subscribed, then please make sure that you do that before you go. And while you're here, I've actually selected another thing on my channel for you to have a look at. Give it a little click, see what you think.